The hum of the Douglas DC-7 filled the cabin as it soared over the Atlantic, bound for the Azores. Inside, 42 souls, including military officers, crew members, and a handful of classified personnel, sat in uneasy silence. It was October 30th, 1954, and Flight 441 had departed from Patuxent River Naval Air Station, Maryland, without a hitch. The weather was clear, the aircraft in pristine condition. Nothing, it seemed, could go wrong. Yet deep within the shadows of the night, something was waiting. Seated near the rear of the aircraft was Lieutenant Jack Halverson, a naval firefighter with years of experience in emergency response. He had fought aircraft fires, rescued crew members from burning wreckages, and survived situations most men wouldn't dream of. But tonight, an unshakable sense of dread clung to him like a wet blanket. He had no reason to feel this way, no turbulence, no mechanical failures, just an instinctual whisper in the back of his mind. The radio operator, Petty Officer Charles Wilcox, adjusted his headset. "Naval Command, this is Flight 441, checking in at 23,000 feet. No anomalies. Over." A voice crackled back through the static. "Roger that, 441. Maintain course." Minutes passed. Then, static. Wilcox frowned. "Naval Command, come in. We're experiencing..." His voice cut off as the cabin lights flickered. The radar altimeter spun wildly, red warning lights flashing in the cockpit. The entire aircraft shuddered violently, as if caught in an unseen grip. Jack's instincts screamed. He unbuckled his belt, rushing toward the cockpit just as the plane lurched downward. Outside, the sky had changed. A massive storm cloud materialized from nowhere, a spiraling vortex swallowing the horizon. Lightning crackled, not white, but an eerie blue, illuminating something unnatural inside the clouds. "Engine 3's failing," the pilot yelled, wrestling with the controls. Jack grabbed onto a seat for balance. "What the hell is happening?" And then, silence. The storm disappeared in an instant, as if it had never existed. But something was wrong. The plane wasn't where it should be. Wilcox's trembling hands gripped the radio. "Naval Command, do you read?" A new voice crackled through the static. Deep, hollow, not human. "Flight 441, you are not alone." The cabin of Flight 441 was silent, save for the hollow static hissing through the radio. Lieutenant Jack Halverson stood frozen near the cockpit, his breath shallow. The strange voice had vanished, leaving only eerie interference behind. "Who the hell was that?" muttered Wilcox, his hands trembling over the radio controls. The pilot, Captain Edward Gaines, adjusted the yoke, trying to stabilize the aircraft. "I don't know, but..." He stopped mid-sentence, his eyes widening. Outside, the ocean below was gone. Where rolling waves should have been, there was now an endless expanse of darkness, stretching into the void. The stars above were gone too. Only a swirling gray mist surrounded them, like a phantom ocean in the sky. "We've lost visual reference," shouted First Officer Daniels. "Instruments are failing. Altimeters spinning out of control." Jack gripped the overhead compartments as the plane lurched violently again. But this time there was no storm, no wind. The plane was being pulled. Gaines fought the controls, his knuckles white. "Something's dragging us down." Then, an impact. The DC-7 jerked violently, as if it had slammed into solid ground. But there was no explosion, no fire, no screams, just silence. Jack gasped for air, his pulse hammering in his ears. He expected pain, broken bones, but he was still in his seat, still alive. The emergency lights flickered weakly. Is everyone okay?" Jack called out. Groans of confusion filled the cabin. Wilcox was hunched over the radio. No signal, no response. "We're..." he swallowed. "We're nowhere." Gaines unbuckled, stumbling toward the cockpit window. He stopped cold, his breath catching. Jack followed his gaze and his stomach dropped. Through the windshield where the ocean should have been, there was now a vast, desolate expanse of jagged black rock stretching endlessly. In the distance, twisted mountains loomed, glowing with a faint blue energy that pulsed through cracks like veins of light. A sky of churning gray clouds hung above, illuminated by no sun. This isn't Earth," Daniels whispered. Jack clenched his fists, forcing logic through his fear. He had fought flames that burned like hell itself. He had saved men from wreckage that should have killed them. But nothing, not war, not fire, not even death, could compare to the cold terror now gripping him. What the hell happened to us? No one had an answer, and outside something was moving. A cold wind howled outside the DC-7, though there was no visible source. The air itself seemed alive, humming with a low-frequency vibration that Jack felt in his bones. Captain Gaines gripped the control panel, his voice shaking. This isn't possible." Jack forced himself to move, peering through the fogged cockpit windows. The landscape outside was like something out of a nightmare. A barren wasteland of jagged black stone, stretching as far as the eye could see. The blue veins of light pulsed eerily beneath the surface, as if the ground itself was breathing. Then he saw it. A figure stood at the edge of the mist. At first it looked like a shadow, barely visible against the swirling fog. But then it moved, gliding, not walking. It had no defined features, just an elongated form, shifting and twisting like smoke. Then another, and another. Jack's throat tightened. "We're not alone." Wilcox backed away from the window, his face pale. "What the hell are those things?" No one answered. Then, a knock. A single, deliberate knock on the aircraft's exterior. Jack spun around, heart pounding. The sound hadn't come from the cockpit windows, but from the main cabin door. Something wanted in. The knock came again, louder this time. Measured, calm. Jack's instincts screamed at him to do something. He had fought through burning wreckage before, had pulled men from the jaws of death. But this was something beyond fire, beyond logic. Gaines unholstered his sidearm, stepping toward the cabin door. "Stay back." Jack moved beside him, fists clenched. He had no weapon, just the years of training that told him to never back down from a fight. A final, thunderous bang rattled the entire aircraft. Then, silence. Jack exhaled, his breath fogging in the frigid air. "They're waiting." Wilcox swallowed. "For what?" Jack didn't know, but something in his gut told him. Whatever was out there, it wasn't done with them yet. And as the mist thickened outside, the shadows multiplied. The knocking had stopped, but the silence was worse. Jack strained to hear beyond the hum of the emergency lights. The air inside the cabin felt wrong. It was heavier, charged with an unseen force, like the static before a lightning strike. "Whatever's out there, it's not leaving," Gaines muttered, gun still drawn. Wilcox tried the radio again, but all he got was static, a deep, distorted frequency that made the speakers vibrate. Then beneath the interference, something whispered. Jack stiffened. "Did you hear that?" Wilcox paled. "It said my name." The entire plane shuddered. Overhead compartments creaked, the metal groaning like it was under immense pressure. Then, a new sound filled the air, not from the outside, from inside the plane, a deep, crackling noise like fire spreading through dry wood. Jack's instincts kicked in. He knew that sound. Something was burning. "Smoke!" Daniels coughed, pointing toward the rear of the cabin. A thin tendril of black smoke curled through the air, its scent acrid and suffocating. Jack rushed toward the source, expecting to find flames licking at the fuselage. But when he reached the back of the plane, there was nothing there, just smoke swirling from nowhere. "This doesn't make sense," Jack muttered, running his hand through the air. The smoke was cold. Gaines looked at him. "How the hell can smoke be cold?" Jack had no answer, but then it moved. The smoke didn't rise. It crawled, twisting unnaturally, like fingers reaching out. And then, right before their eyes, it took shape. A face emerged from the darkness. Hollow eyes and open mouth frozen in a silent scream. Jack stumbled back. The others saw it too. The face of a man, contorted in agony, dissolving into the smoke before reforming again. Wilcox's voice shook. "My God, it's them!" Jack understood in an instant. The missing passengers, the lost souls of the Bermuda Triangle, they weren't just dead, they were trapped here. And if Jack didn't figure out how to fight this, they would be next. Jack's pulse hammered in his ears. The smoke-formed faces twisted, flickering in and out of existence like echoes of the dead. Their mouths moved soundlessly, eyes locked in an eternal expression of terror. Then, one of them spoke, a voice layered and hollow, like it was coming from 1,000 places at once. "They never let us go." The lights flickered violently. A deep, resonant hum filled the aircraft, vibrating through the metal, through Jack's bones. Then, in an instant, the faces vanished. The smoke collapsed, sinking into the floor like it had never been there at all. Wilcox took a shaky breath. "We're going to die here." "No!" Jack growled, his survival instincts kicking in. "Not if I can help it." But how? The aircraft was still intact. No damage, no indication they had crashed. And yet, they weren't on Earth anymore. They were somewhere else, somewhere wrong. Outside, the mist grew thicker, pressing against the windows like a living thing. The figures were still out there, watching, waiting. "We need to move," Jack said, gripping Gaines by the shoulder. "This plane isn't safe." Gaines hesitated but nodded. "Agreed. But where the hell do we go?" Jack's jaw tightened. He had no answer until something changed. The blue veins of light running through the rocky landscape outside began to pulse faster. The ground trembled slightly, a low, distant rumbling filling the air. Then suddenly, a structure emerged from the mist. A towering black spire, jagged like volcanic glass, standing impossibly tall against the gray sky. Blue energy pulsed at its base, feeding into the stone like a heartbeat. "That wasn't there before," Daniels whispered. Wilcox's fingers clenched over his radio. What if that's where they went? The other planes, the missing ships. What if they were all brought here?" Jack stared at the imposing tower. Every instinct in him screamed that it was important. The answer to this nightmare was inside. And if they wanted to survive, they'd have to go straight into the heart of it. The towering black spire loomed before them, its jagged surface pulsing with the same eerie blue light that slithered beneath the ground. It felt alive, humming with a frequency Jack could feel deep in his chest. "This place isn't natural," Wilcox whispered, gripping his radio like a lifeline. Jack tightened his fists. "It doesn't matter. That thing is the only clue we have." Captain Gaines hesitated. "If we leave the plane, we might not make it back." Jack looked him dead in the eye. "If we stay, we won't survive." No one argued. With every step they took toward the blackened rock, the air grew heavier, thick with an unnatural presence. The fog curled around them, like something alive, whispering in foreign tongues, coaxing them forward, pressing against their bodies, trying to pull them deeper into the unknown. And then, movement. The shadowy figures that had watched them from the mist now surrounded the spire, frozen in place as if they were waiting. They were no longer human. They had changed, become something beyond recognition, their features distorted, frozen in a twisted, eternal expression of fear. Jack's instincts screamed at him to run, but they couldn't. The spire called to them. The pulse of energy from within the structure seemed to reach out, gripping their very souls. "We can't turn back," Jack muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. He stepped forward, his feet heavy with the weight of what was to come. The entrance to the spire yawned wide before them, an open mouth of stone, beckoning them into the heart of the mystery. They had no choice. They stepped inside. The air was thick with an unnatural warmth, charged with something ancient. The walls of the spire were covered with symbols that didn't belong, glowing faintly, pulsing with an energy they couldn't comprehend. Wilcox reached for his radio, but it spat static, the sound distorted and unsettling. Then through the interference came a voice, deep, layered, inhuman. "Choose!" Jack froze, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't understand, but he knew they had to make a choice. But what was the choice? To stay? To leave? To escape this nightmare? The shadows began to stir, crawling closer. Their presence was overwhelming, suffocating, as if the very spirit of the Bermuda Triangle had wrapped itself around them. Jack glanced at Gaines, who seemed paralyzed by fear. "Jack, we can't stay here." But it was too late. The spire trembled, the ground shaking beneath their feet. Energy surged through the walls and the mist around them began to swirl violently, like a storm about to break. In a desperate attempt to find an answer, Jack stepped forward and placed his hand against the nearest symbol. The moment he touched it, the entire spire shook violently, the blue veins of light flaring into a blinding white flash. The world split, a deafening sound like the crack of thunder split the air. And then everything went dark. Hours passed. When Jack's eyes opened, he found himself back inside the cockpit. His hands were still gripping the armrests, his breath shallow. The plane was in the same condition, intact, but now eerily still. Wilcox was slumped over the radio, staring blankly at the blinking lights. "Command, do you copy?" Nothing but static. Outside the windows, the ocean stretched into the horizon, calm and still, as if they had never left. But then Jack noticed something. The horizon wasn't right. There were no islands, no ships, nothing. Just an endless expanse of gray. The stars, once visible, were now covered by a cloudless, dark sky, an expanse that seemed wrong, out of place. He rubbed his eyes, trying to clear his vision. "We're not where we started," he whispered. But before anyone could answer, the radio cut off, replaced by an eerie hum, like something was trying to break through. And then, silence. Flight 441 had vanished without a trace, just as it had in real life, lost to the Bermuda Triangle. Thanks for watching Brave Sparks. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like and don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us bring you more powerful and inspiring stories. Stay brave, and we'll see you in the next one.